you're self-employed, procrastination feels a little different, doesn't it? There is no boss breathing down your neck, but at the same time, it's all on you. And I tell you, the remedy to procrastination is not more willpower. Instead, you need only 3 simple switches that trick your brain into action. That's what we're diving into today.
I'm Bianca and I work exclusively with self-employed professionals, which means I understand your specific challenges, your patterns, and your pressure points. I believe in compassionate productivity, where emotional intelligence meets strategic planning.
Alright, I'm not gonna hold back on my best advice when the topic is procrastination. So here we go. Before you can use my techniques, you need to be honest with yourself. Look at the task you're procrastinating in the eye and ask, does this task still make sense to me? Like, is it aligned to my goals and values? Or is now a good time to say no, hit pause, or delegate this? It's so very common that we carry with us old ideas, old projects that no longer make sense. We still keep them on our plate, too scared to pull the band-aid. So that's your first reality check. Must go through it. Now, if it still has a strong pull for you to keep it on your to-do, then great. Let's navigate this procrastination territory now. As a rule of thumb, wherever there is procrastination, there is resistance. And I call these my anti-resistance trio. Number 1, identify the hidden action. Number 2, measure your resistance. I love this one. And number 3, add comfort. Yes, it has to do with pillows somewhat. I promise you're gonna like it. Okay, for identifying the hidden action, I'm gonna use an example here of something I procrastinate on. Logging my expenses. So this first step is a result of my continuous observation of myself. And I was trying to understand what was happening in my head every time I read this to-do and procrastinated. First, I'd be getting this strong, unappealing image in my head of myself having to sit through hours. Then I'd have this image of myself finding unidentified expenses and having to spend time sorting through receipts, trying to figure out what that expense was. And then I also remember that I had to prepare these files, these statements, so I can import them into my money management software, along with gathering physical receipts. So I observed that all these thoughts would come along in the millisecond of me reading that to-do. And I realized that when you read a task that doesn't contain the very first step, clear and straightforward, we tend to say, oh, whatever, next. Just give me something that's decided on already. Just give me something that's easier. Doesn't come emotionally charged, you know? There's this story about this pizza place attendant. He'd be at the counter getting the orders. He was the owner. If you got to the counter not ready with your order, with your mind made about your order, he would send you to the end of the line. Very rudely, he'd say, come back when you're ready. This guy was very popular for the wrong reasons. Now, this behavior is similar to our brain. Our brain wants that which is already decided. It's easy, it's clear, straightforward, straight to the point. For our brains, the more we have to think, rationalize, remember, or decipher what is it that that task means, the easier it is to skip it and go to an easier one. You know that saying, I'd rather clean the entire kitchen than to start this particular task. That's what it is. So coming back to my example of logging my expenses. After I thought about it for a bit, I realized that before I can log my expenses, my actual first step was to prepare the files for importing and also gathering physical receipts. So that's something I needed to do before I was even able to log the expenses. They need to be done and they're much more manageable. Like I can chew on that. They're small and clear, bite-sized. If when I read log expenses, it's too big, it's daunting. And it gets me trapped in this feeling that, oh my gosh, it's gonna be hours. I'm gonna have to be sitting there for so much time. It's gonna be so annoying. I'm gonna find all these problems. You see, it gets me trapped. Here's a different example. Let's say I have a task to call so-and-so about a given topic. If I'm procrastinating on that, I have to ask myself, is the very first step hidden? Think of the action before the action. What has to happen before I actually pick up the phone and call? Simple. Do I even have this person's number? Do I know know when's the best time to call? Do I have all the information I'll need during the call? Is it a good idea to keep a topics list so I don't forget anything? Is it a good idea to have a bullet list so I don't forget anything? Do I need to research that information? If I answered yes to any of these, I already found a hidden action. And those are actions with less resistance and less procrastination. Do you see? Another situation would be having a whole project disguised as a task. Your to-do list is like a cookie jar. You just pull something out of and it's ready to be executed on. It's not a place to think. You know what I mean? Thinking belongs in the projects list. If I have a big project, like say redo my onboarding process, if I want to think through the steps that'll be part of this project, I'll dedicate a space to brainstorm all stages, steps, the order of things, the sequence, everything that'll need to happen. And out of that, I pull only the very next action and put it on my to-do. Clear and straightforward, bite-sized. And if for a particular project I don't know where to start, my first action is hear what people were talking about on this topic. Do quick research, okay? That way, it's ready to be executed on. No need to decipher where do I start. That's the essence of this first step. Identify the hidden action. The second step, measure your resistance. Now that the bite-sized task has been revealed, we move on to measuring your resistance. Yes, because we still resist doing it even though it's smaller and less scary. Clarity doesn't do miracles. I want you to measure your resistance toward this task by asking yourself, do I see myself sitting down to work on this for an hour? No. 45 minutes? 30 minutes? Oh, no. 15? You see, you keep lowering the number until you get to what feels acceptable to you. That's when you found the point where your resistance lies. It's so common that we look at a task that'll take 3 hours and we get stuck in this idea of 3 hours. However, 2 hours and a half, there's already resistance. 2 hours already resisting. But then you get to a number like, 45 minutes. That's acceptable. The resistance is in spending more than X minutes doing the task. And where your resistance falls on the scale is going to be unique to the task. That's why I say Pomodoro shouldn't be a fixed time that you grab from the internet. They say 25 minutes work, 5 minutes break. That just doesn't work with every single task. Some tasks, for you to get in the flow of it, will need 50 minutes, you know what I mean? That's why Pomodoro, it needs to be a case by case thing. And you're gonna identify where your resistance lies. When I dedicate this time to feeling where my resistance actually is, shedding light on this, I move away from that feeling of being a victim, of suffering, of wanting to escape, and I go into a place that's more peaceful, like, okay, this feels more comfortable. And you do need to set a timer to make this work. Like you tell me, Bianca, I feel that 45 minutes I feel no resistance to. Okay, 45 minutes is your timer for this task. And you will sit and do the task with the clock running. This does two things. It creates a safe space because this activity that represents stress for you is now contained. It's no longer threatening. It's just that many minutes, A lot of our suffering comes from an intimidating illusion that the task has no end. It's a sensation that it will last forever. The second reason is self-regulation becomes easier. Self-regulation means being able to hold back from temptations. Hold back the impulse to open another tab. Hold back from getting caught in a notification. Hold back from picking up my phone. Suddenly these things become easier to resist because it's like you're on a mission. And that's how you execute. All of this is an effort for you to get around the projections in your head. A projection is me imagining what it would be like to execute a task. But there is a huge gap between this projection in my mind and actually doing the task. When we make a projection, especially if it's something you haven't touched in a while, like cleaning up the junk room or reviving a project, you only have an idea of how you left it. You have an idea of what you will encounter when you return to it. It's all kind of blurry. The sense of effort is huge. That projection scares you and you run away. But I am sure it has happened to you in the past that The moment you actually sat down to do the thing you were procrastinating on, after a few minutes passed, you felt the water's temperature, you got familiar with the reality, not with the projection. In the end, you said, well, it wasn't as hard as I thought. It went faster than I thought. Why didn't I do this sooner? Do you remember this ever happening to you? I'm pretty sure so. That's why I say you need to touch the task, even for a brief minute or two. Connect with the task. Literally, have some form of contact so you can break the projection and replace it with reality. I honestly think this is gold when it comes to overcoming procrastination. Lastly, but most fun, add comfort. This is a very practical thing that helps with execution. Ask yourself, how can I bring comfort in one or more of the 5 senses? Touch, taste, smell, vision, hearing, everything. In taste, for example, you know that chef that before even starts cooking pours themselves a glass of wine? To start things off, he puts on some music. I really love this example to help you get inspired about what I mean with this step. Bring something that gives you comfort. Your favorite drink. When I have a really intimidating task to do, hot chocolate is like my execution partner. It works all the time. For smell, I really love to light scented candles or using essential oils. It sounds simplistic, right? But they really transform my mood. There's also some sprays you can spray the room with. That's really easy and nice. Hearing, putting some fun music. I like to say that if the task is robotic, meaning you don't have to use a lot of cognition, the music can be fun, it can have lyrics, it can be loud. But if the task requires concentration, it's cognitively intensive, the music has to be instrumental. No lyrics, nothing for your brain to process on the background, because the brain is always processing. So just go with classical, instrumental only. Some people really like binaural beats, which creates a frequency in your headphone that puts you in a particular state. Some people use it for sleep, some people use it for high concentration and study. It's really popular. People also like white noise, which is something like rain, listening to rain, or a waterfall. It's more of a static noise. That can work for you. Touch is also important. You can pay attention to not just comfort, like where I'm seated, if that's comfortable. Maybe I want to take my laptop and work from the sofa. But also think about temperature. Do I need to bring a fan if it's too hot? Or a heater if it's too cold? Do I want to work standing up? Stand-up desks. I love those. And also what's funny is, when you're like, it's freezing winter and your feet are frozen. Have you ever thought about doing a foot soak? Yes, if you work from home, you should take advantage of those possibilities. What else here? Vision. This is a fun one. Change the environment. Go outside. Work from the balcony if you can. Go read in the kitchen. I don't know why. Since I was a kid, I felt this difference from studying in my bedroom versus studying in the kitchen. In the kitchen, it was so much better. Like, I felt so much more productive. I don't know why. It just works. Changing the environment really works. Spend a day working in a coffee shop or a library. This can really transform the moment. There's a fun thing besides working with the 5 senses, which is to mess around with the order in which you do things. I feel that our brains are very linear, top to bottom, left to right, depending on your country. I feel that we have a pattern of linearity, and I myself have many times trumped procrastination, proposing to myself that I do the task backwards. Here's an easy example. If I'm lazy to go to the gym, instead of thinking that I'm gonna have to follow my workout routine as usual, I'll think, today I'll start backwards. Suddenly, the dread in my head goes away. I don't know, it's just a little secret I found. It can also work for things that you believe have to be done a certain way. This touches on perfectionism. The example that's coming to me is if I have to clean a room, the methodical brain is gonna say I have to wipe the surfaces and only then the floor gets cleaned. It's rational, it makes sense. Sure, it makes sense, but for some reason I'm not doing it. What if it has to do with the order I'm trying to do it? What's really gonna happen if I leave the surfaces to be done last? And honestly, it's kind of fun to break these regimens. Try it out. Try to be a little rebel sometimes with your tasks. Another physical thing that you can do that I noticed some effect in my own life is doing tiny actions that represent me getting ready for something. For example, brushing my teeth, rolling up my sleeves, or putting my hair up in a pony. It's like my body gets in this mode of, oh, we're getting ready for something. It's like priming yourself. You're suddenly more ready than you were before. It makes your entrance in the task more assertive. Try it. Let me know in the comments. I use this add comfort trick to so many things in my life. For example, sometimes I'm lazy to do my morning yoga. And what I do is I grab this scented spray. It's clove scented. It's marvelous. And I spray it all over. Besides that, I also put a yoga video on TV. But not to follow along. I do my own sequence. But inevitably, that instructor will say something like, take a deep breath. Don't think about the outside or your to-dos. Focus on the now. And in those moments, I'll borrow those words to center myself. In other words, I borrowed the comfort of having another human being, sort of, doing that task with me while I'm doing my own solitary work. And it worked wonders. Another funny story. I hate flossing. So now I do it in the shower. I take that relaxing moment of the shower and I use it as comfort to get through this boring task of flossing. Try it. You will see, it's so much better. I really hope these examples helped you, inspired you in some way. It's always possible to add comfort. Start exploring what unique set of things comfort your 5 senses. I promise you, this is transformative to your productivity. Now, if you still fear that you're gonna get distracted in the middle of the timer you set for yourself, I have this video that talks exactly about how to keep focus. It's a must watch, so check it out. Thank you so much and I'll see you around. No, that's sound. Oh God. Alone. Oh my God.